Hey y'all, how y'all doing today? Thank you for stopping by the Tea Factory podcast. Thank you for stopping by and watching this video. I do appreciate you stopping by. Please subscribe to the channel, comment, and like. So a few housekeeping. As always, we have to go over the section 107 of the Copyright Act. There is allowance for fair use of copyright material for such purposes as criticism, comment, news reporting, teaching, scholarship, and research. As examples of activities may qualify as fair use. I will review the episode and then I give my commentary as I go along. So anything I say is in my very own opinion. And we are going to review the Real Housewives of Atlanta, season 16, episode 9. Episode 9 is called Blame It on the Henny. So it's called Blame It on the Henny, and we all know, if you follow this show, you don't even have to be a day one. You could be someone who's been watching just this season, and you know who is the person that is probably referring to when the title's named Blame It on the Henny. That would be Porsha Williams, because Porsha's always drinking Hennessy. I can I can count in one hand, so that would be like 5 different scenes or whatever when she's at a restaurant somewhere, and the scenes, and they're like, or she's ordering a Hennessy on the rocks or something like that. So that's a dead giveaway. Blame It on the Henny. They're probably, obviously they are referring to Porsha Williams. So episode 9 opens up with Cynthia Bailey saying at the end of the trip from Nashville trip, everything was a bit weird, and she had went to bed early. And I knew she had went to bed early because on the last episode they showed her and Porsha leaving Porsha's room. Porsha went outside and was twerking and partying at the pool, and Cynthia was nowhere in sight. So we all could assume, like I said in the last video, that Cynthia had went to bed. So that's what she says. And then they do a flashback where Angela was in the downstairs by the door getting ready to leave with her luggage, and Kelly comes up to her and says good morning to Angela, and Angela was not having it. Angela didn't want to hear it because Angela was mad because she heard them talking about her and Charles when they were partying at the pool. So Angela told Kelly she didn't want to be fake. She didn't want to talk to her. She didn't want to hear about her good mornings. She didn't want the salutations, good mornings from Kelly. And she left. Angela says that Kelly and Britt are Porsha's do-girls. So she wasn't trying to hear it. So that was like a flashback that they did. So episode 9 opens up with the scene with Cynthia, Kelly, and Shamia meeting up at a restaurant to talk about Nashville. So basically everybody's back in Atlanta now. So they're back home. And so Cynthia, Kelly, and Shamia, they meet up to talk about what happened, to recap Nashville. And Cynthia's like, what happened, child? Because I went to bed and apparently it was some drama. So Kelly and Shamia are telling Cynthia what happened, kind of bringing her up to speed on, what Angela's probably upset about. So then they pan over to show Cynthia at Angela's house, and Angela is telling Cynthia her version of what she heard. So basically she's telling her, they were partying, they were drinking, and Porsha was drunk, and she had said some things about her and her husband. Angela told Cynthia that Porsha had said that she could sleep with Charles if she had wanted to, or was saying maybe I should sleep with Charles. So, Angela did not like that one bit. So, now they have beef. It's on them popping now. Okay? Angela is going to be on Porsha's ass for the rest of the season. It's on them popping. And then the reunion is going to be good too, because it's going to be Angela and Porsha going at it. I feel like at the reunion, they should have Angela and Porsha at first chair, sitting next to Andy and across from each other, because they're going to go at it. They have a lot of beef. And then, out of the newbies, Kelly is not bringing nothing to the table. Like, she really don't have anything going on. She occasionally talks about her husband and the drama with him and how he, was abusive or he stole money from her. And then Britt, all she's been doing is crying about that situation with Kenya. And then now crying about Angela, how Angela came at her at the brunch. So between Britt, Angela, and Kelly, the one that has risen to the top, in my opinion, is Angela. Angela's been bringing the heat. Angela's been holding Porsha accountable. She's been going toe-to-toe against Porsha. She's not scared of Porsha. She don't kiss Porsha's ass. And the only person she's really loyal to is Drew, because I guess her and Drew, been friends. Obviously, they were friends, before Angela came on the show. So they must be really good friends in real life. So, but other than that, like, as far as Angela's concerned, anybody and anybody can get it. She's with the smoke, okay? So yeah. So she's, as far as like me liking her, I don't know if I like her just yet. But she is good for TV. She is good for the show. And, out of all the newbies, she's the one that has risen to the top. I mean, she even make Porsha look, a hot mess, So she's the one that's carrying, to me, in my opinion, thus far. We're on episode 9. To me, Angela is carrying the show. Okay? So let's move along. And then they show Cynthia meeting up with Porsha to get Porsha's side of the story. So Cynthia's like, she talked to Kelly, she talked to Shamia, she talked to Angela. Now she's like, okay, let me meet up with Porsha. Let me hear Porsha's side of the story. And then Porsha, of course, she's going to act like she's had amnesia. I mean, I don't know if she really did say that, because it wasn't recorded by the Bravo cameras. But apparently Angela's saying that she heard her say that. So basically it's Angela word against Porsha's word, because there's really no Bravo audio caught her saying that, So Porsha says that she doesn't remember saying that, and she doesn't remember saying that, and she doesn't think she said that, and she said she wouldn't do that, and that's not something that she would do. So she, has no plans on being disrespectful towards Angela and sleeping with her man, and she doesn't remember saying that. So that's what Porsha told Cynthia. And then, so Cynthia tells the girls that she's going to have her Bailey Q. Usually she has it around the 4th of July, but she's going to have it Juneteenth this year. So next scene is the dog birthday party for Cha-Cha. So Kelly's little dog, her name is Cha-Cha. They're having a birthday party for her at the park. And there's a cute little VIP section for the dogs. And then there's dogs doing dogs doing tricks for dogs. Okay. That is too funny. So then Britt brings Mimosa, which is her dog, to the dog birthday party for Cha-Cha. And there's other people there with their dogs. But the way Britt treats Mimosa like it's a like she's a person, like a dog. I mean, like she's a person, like she's a baby. So Britt basically needs to have a child. She needs to hurry up and have a child, because I'm sure she was holding Mimosa the whole time. Okay. And I'm sure Mimosa wanted to get on the ground. She wanted, to go play with the other dogs. I'm sure she wanted to sniff other dogs' butts. I'm sure she wanted to run. I'm sure she wanted to poop. I'm sure she wanted to pee. But Britt is carrying her like a baby and talking about she's fabulous. Our dogs her and Cha-Cha are fabulous. Yes, they're fabulous, but they're dogs. They're not babies. They're not children. So hopefully Britt has a baby soon, because I feel sorry for her. And I'm tired of her treating Mimosa like that. She needs to let that dog be a dog. She don't have to be, out in the streets dirty and nasty and musty and crusty. But she doesn't have to treat it like that, holding it the whole time. She could have put her down. I'm sure she wanted to go put her leg up on a tree or bush or something and pee. Poor Mimosa. Anyway, let's move along. So the next scene we have Britt. Well, actually, okay, same scene. I'm sorry. Britt is telling Kelly that her and her sister are making up and things are looking up for them and they're getting along. And Kelly tells Britt about Cynthia inviting everybody to the Bailey queue and how she's going to have a prophetess there, and that's somebody that's supposed to prophesy over their life, I guess, or whatever. So that was that. And then next scene, I really don't have anything to say about that part. So next scene is Porsha at her mother's house. It's her mother's house, but it's actually Porsha's house. Okay? AKA Porsha's house. So Porsha bought PJ a dog. So I wonder if that was after Cha-Cha's birthday, because she could have went to Cha-Cha's birthday party and took the new dog with her. But then I'm guessing from the way they did it that Porsha probably bought the dog after Kelly had Cha-Cha's birthday party. So that's probably why they didn't go, because they didn't show them there. It was only Britt there. So then Porsha is telling her mom and her sister Lauren about the trip in Nashville. So Lauren's like, okay, so what happened after we left? So Porsha's giving them an update. Porsha tells them that Dennis and Drew have been filming together and that she was really upset about Drew and Dennis filming on the show together, and she felt betrayed. She was upset and she had an attitude at the dinner. And so Porsha says in her confessional scene that she don't remember talking about Angela. She doesn't remember calling Angela Big Bird. And then, she was telling her mom and Lauren that Angela was upset and that Angela heard them calling her names, talking about her, and what she had said about Charles. I kind of feel like Porsha was like when she was telling her side of the story. You know how like somebody tells their side of the story, but they don't tell the whole story and they leave out some information. That's how I feel like Porsha, that's what I feel Porsha was doing when she was telling her mom and Lauren her side of the story. I mean, that's what most people do, but I felt like, girl, you're not telling it all. But anyway, okay. And the next scene, we have Shamia at her surrogacy office. So the lady who carried Shiloh, she has her own business, her own company, the surrogacy, and she owns that business with Dr. Jackie. Dr. Jackie is from Married to Medicine. And listen, Dr. Jackie is pretty much everybody in Atlanta's doctor. Like all these celebrity women, all these celebrity females in Atlanta who have had babies have gone to Dr. Jackie. Dr. Jackie delivered, I believe, Toni Braxton's, both of her sons or one of her sons. She was Tamar Braxton's doctor. She's Tiny's doctor. I think she delivered, if I'm not mistaken, she delivered Major and Eris, T.I. and Tiny's kids. She was also, I believe, Rashida's doctor when she had Carter. She was Toya Johnson Rushing's doctor. Who else? Candy's doctor. She's Candy's doctor as well. I mean, she's everybody's doctor. Everybody that's a celebrity, and black celebrities in Atlanta, she's Dr. Jack is their doctor. Damn near everybody. Okay. So anyway, they own the surrogacy business. So Shamia was there to meet the new girl that's going to be carrying the new child that her and her husband is trying to have. And hopefully it's a boy, because that's what Gerald, I think that's his name, Gerald, her husband, that's what he wants. He wants to have a baby boy. And so she meets the girl, the lady that's gonna be carrying the baby. Shamia asked her if she was, if she had a boyfriend, if she was in a relationship or not. And the girl was like, no, I'm not in a relationship. Not right now. I'm single. And, Shamia asked that because she want to make sure that that lady is not going to be having sex while she's pregnant with her child, And I don't blame her. Shit. I don't blame her. So Shamia was like, okay, well, if you do get a boyfriend or whatever, make sure you let us know. They're going to have to deduct from your pay, honey. She's going to deduct from your pay if you have a boyfriend while she's, while you're pregnant with her child. And then my thing, though, is how are they going to know? She can lie and say she doesn't have anybody that she's seen, anybody that she's sleeping with. But at the end of the day, how are they going to know? Would they going to put an ankle monitor on her? Would they going to, some kind of GPS on her? How are they going to know? She can lie and say she's not seeing anybody or sleeping with nobody and still be doing all of the above. And Shamia doesn't have a way of knowing that. So she's just pretty much going to have to take her at her word and trust her. That's the only thing. So at the end of the day, that question, I know it needed to be asked, but at the end of the day, honey, you're never going to know for sure. But hopefully she's a good person, has integrity, has morals, and that she does the right thing. So the next scene is Angela at her house working out with Charles, her husband, honey. And she is telling him about Nashville. She told him about Porsha, the beef and the drama that her and Porsha have going on, and how Porsha was talking about her and him. And I like Charles. So, so she says, Porsha was mad at me because I invited Drew without her permission. And Charles says, yeah, she should have. You had no business doing it. He's like, Porsha had every right to be mad at you. And then she's like, okay. So you're going to take Portia's side? Okay. You ready? You ready for this? So she tells him, that Porsha was talking about him too. And he's like, okay, like he doesn't even care. Okay. He doesn't care. And then I like when she said that she likes talking to Charles or telling him her issues because she's going to get it fresh off the hater's head. She called him a hater. I like what she said. Now, Angela, she's funny. She's quick with it. She's got shade for days. So she tells him that Porsha was saying that he was seeing a girl in New York, that he was seeing somebody. And then he asked her, well, do you believe that? And she says, no, I don't believe it. And then he said, okay, so what you worry about it for? Like, what? It doesn't matter. It's not true. It doesn't matter. So why are you entertaining them, basically? But, it's just drama. But I like Charles because he doesn't care. He doesn't like anything she threw at him. Well, Porsha said this. Shamia said this. Britt said this. He doesn't care. He says, not true. What do you believe in and listening to them for? He doesn't care. So, that was that. And basically he's trying to let her know too, you shouldn't care. And if you do care, you need to check them right then and then and handle it. Don't be bringing the shit back to me. Handle that shit out there. So next scene is her, Porsha is at her mother's house again. Really, like I said, aka really her house. And so she's at her mother's house and she's hiring a nanny. So she has Dennis come over to her mom's house so they can interview and talk to the nanny. It sounds like she's already hired her. So I don't, really Dennis. I mean, I guess Dennis was just there to meet her, girl. That's it. So Dennis comes over. The girl comes over. The young South African, I think she said she was. The new nanny. And then Dennis is looking like PJ doesn't even need a nanny, but this is just, he made a comment and said this is just Porsha's way of being able to sneak off because Pilar will have company and Porsha can run the streets and just do whatever the heck she wants to do. At the end of the day, he might be right. Because Porsha's getting a nanny and she shares custody with Dennis. So that means half of the time she's with her and the other half she's with Dennis. So it's like when she's with Dennis, why can't you, if you about to run the streets, why don't you run the streets when she's with Dennis? And then when she's with you, you sit your ass at home and be a mom. I don't know. Maybe I'm just being old fashioned, but it's like she really didn't need a nanny. And then on top of that, Miss Diane, why can't Miss Diane keep her? And Pilar is not a baby. Isn't she like, I don't know. I think she might be 6 or 7. So she's a big girl. But nevertheless, I guess this is rich people's problems, So she hired a nanny. And then afterwards, Porsha tells Dennis, let's go talk. And he's like, oh, Lord, what do you want to talk about now? Okay. And he's like, I hope you have some alcohol or something to drink because he knows it's going to be some drama. So then she starts talking to him about Drew, of course, and how, she found out they were filming together. And Dennis tells her that Drew is no longer signed to him anyway. So that should cut some of the drama between them. And then on the confessional, the producer asked Dennis why he was filming with Drew behind Porsha's back. He said he wasn't filming. He just happened to come to a studio session and the cameras happened to be there. And then, I don't know. It was a good answer. Good try, Dennis. And then Porsha tries to read one of Dennis' text messages that she says that he sent to her regarding him screwing Drew. Not regarding Drew wanting to screw him. Okay. And then he basically turned Drew down. So basically Porsha's trying to say that Drew was trying to screw Dennis, but Dennis wasn't having it. So he let Porsha know. I say BS. I think Porsha is lying. I don't think Dennis sent her a text saying any of that shit. And I think Porsha is exaggerating and she's misleading. And I don't know why Porsha is, I don't know. This season, I'm very disappointed in her. She is, running flat, as much as I don't like Drew. And I can't believe I'm taking up for Drew. I don't believe that. I don't believe Dennis sent Porsha the text saying that. And I think that Porsha is just twisting and interpreting the text message to make it appear that way because she's being foul. And then she just tells Dennis, she's just trying to be cordial with him. She wants to have like this perfect parental relationship. And that they're like homies, and she tries to give him a dap, and he's like, man, I am not gonna dap you up. And then, okay, let me back up a little bit too. Porsha, when she was doing her confessional and she's talking about Dennis, he pulls up a chair and he ends up being in her confessional as well. So they're both sitting next to each other doing confessionals. And that's when the producer asked him why he was filming with Drew behind Porsha's back. And then that's when he said, He just happened to be at the studio and the cameras were there. So then, Porsha like tries to go in and give him a dap like he was, YN or whatever. And her bestie, and then Dennis is like, man, I'm not going out like that. I'm not going to dap you up. So gone with all that. So next thing, we have Britt packing up at her mother's house because her mother's going to move in with her and she's selling the house. And Britt says that it's bittersweet, which I can imagine, It's a lot of memories, especially if she grew up in that house. It's a lot of memories, and then memories of her father because her father passed. And then her sister, Cher, was there helping her pack. And her sister, I don't know, something wrong with her. She needs to go to therapy. Her sister needs to go to therapy because her sister is always tripping, in my opinion, and she says she's grieving, so I can understand that, but she needs to go to therapy. And then her sister starts arguing with her mother, going back and forth with her mother, and telling her mother that she's upset that she's selling the house. And the mom's like, what am I going to do with this house, And then the sister says, you was my dad when you was 17, so now that he's gone, you're trying to be out there and be a hoe. You're trying to, live your life. And if that's the case, there's nothing wrong with that, because especially if she gave all her time and life to her husband and her kids. So the kids are grown, daughters are grown, husband has passed. So if she wants to not have any responsibilities and live before she passes, I'm not mad at her. But they're going back and forth, they're arguing. Then Britt calls her other sister, and then the sisters start crying on the phone, and they're arguing and stuff. And then the grandma chimes in, tells them they need to stop fighting and arguing. Life is too short. And Britt, you could tell, Britt's the one that's trying to be level-headed, try to hold everybody and everything together. You can tell, and she tells her grandma, "You're right, Grandma. We do need to get along." So that was that scene. That was kind of a sad scene, to be honest with you. But the sister needs to get therapy. She really needs to go see somebody and sit on somebody's couch. So next scene, we have the Bailey Q. Like Cynthia said, it was supposed to, normally it's on July 4th weekend, but she moved it to Juneteenth because Biden, made Juneteenth a holiday. So she had it at her house. It was raining. Everybody's showing up. I think Britt was the first one to show up. And then Kelly, and then Angela, and then I think it was Shamia. Shamia shows up with her African attire, because her husband is African. Her husband's from Kenya, so she had to represent. Now, I like the dashiki, but I did not like the earrings, and I didn't like the necklace that Shamia had on. I didn't like that. And then, Porsha shows up, and then last but not least, or might be least, is Drew. Drew's always late. I swear, Drew is always late. Drew's late. And then the lady does, everybody's prophecy. And then when she was trying to do Drew's prophecy, Kelly tells the prophetess, the lady, okay, I can't speak today. She tells her, be careful now, because she's an actress, and Drew is an actress, okay? I think she is fake and phony. But, like I said, I'm with Kelly on that. So, okay, so then then Angela and Britt start going back and forth. Britt said that the prophetess, she was saying something to Angela. I guess she was saying to her something about she sees this, she sees that. I guess she was trying to talk about Charles, and she was telling her that she needs to make time for him and things of that nature. And so Angela says, okay, well, I probably need to go to Victoria's Secret and, get me something. she was trying to be a good sport. And then Britt says to her, well, you probably need to listen to her and take care of your man. And then Angela says to her, she says something about Britt having mileage on her mouth and that she's got wrinkles around her mouth. And Angela calls Britt a whore. Like, they really get into it. They be going back and forth. It all started because she said something about Charles, but Angela was going in on Britt with the shade, and Britt can't even hang. She could not hang because Angela was coming, she was coming with it. She told her her mouth had mileage. She told her she had wrinkles around her mouth. And all Britt could do was, oh, you need to take care of your husband. If you took care of your husband, you wouldn't have to worry about him being out there cheating on you or something about a baby. And then Kelly chimes in and says, yeah, what about that baby? Like, it was just dumb. They were dumb. They were dumb. And Kelly and Britt really didn't have anything to say because Angela was like, getting with them left and right. So Cynthia decides that she wants to create a meeting. Like, she wants the girls to, especially Angela and Porsha and Angela and Shamia, to kind of, settle the differences, talk things out. So Cynthia takes Porsha and Angela to the side in a different room in the house and tells them they need to sit down and talk and hash their issues out. So they're talking, and Porsha and Angela are talking, but they still weren't feeling each other, and they still wasn't listening to each other. And then let's see. Oh, so then, they're arguing about her inviting Drew still. Like, goodness, like, when are we going to get over this? I'm tired of them arguing about Angela inviting Drew. I mean, Angela, in her confessional, she has said that if she had to do it again, she would do it again. So basically, if she had to invite Drew again, she would do it all over. So what that means is at the end of the day, Angela is not apologizing. She's not sorry for inviting Drew, because if she had to do it all over again, she's going to do it anyway. So what's the point of trying to get Angela to apologize and say she's sorry for what she did? Because she's not sorry. So Porsha's saying that Angela needs to apologize to her, and Angela's like, no, Porsha, you need to apologize to me what you said about my husband. Angela's mad because Porsha was talking about her husband, and Porsha refused to apologize, and vice versa. So then when Cynthia comes in, she tries to see if they could, move forward. I think they just agreed to disagree pretty much. And then Angela brings Shamia in. Cynthia. Angela's still sitting there. Cynthia brings Shamia in. Shamia sits down with Angela, and Angela says to her she felt by her being a married woman when her friend was talking about her husband that Shamia should have checked Porsha, because she's, as a married woman, Shamia should have checked Porsha for talking about Charles. And Shamia's like, but that's not my fight. That is not my fight. That's not my business. It ain't got nothing to do with me. So I was not about to get into it with you guys, get in the middle of what y'all got going on, And I understand what Shamia's saying in that regards, because she's right. It's not her fight. It doesn't have anything to do with her. And then plus, Porsha and Shamia are best friends. So the way from Shamia's perspective, Porsha's her best friend. Angela, she just met her. They had words like episode 2, whatever it was, when they were at that gym, when Angela was windmilling for Drew, and she was coming at Shamia sideways. Shamia hasn't forgotten that. Like, she's still butthurt about it. So she hasn't forgotten that. So she's not gonna sit here and go against Porsha for Angela because they're not friends. She feels like her friendship with Porsha means more to her than Angela's. So that's why she didn't check her. And then for Angela to sit there and tell Shamia she needs to check Porsha, that was a reach. Because first of all, Shamia ain't gonna do shit. She's not gonna do it. So that was a reach. So they pretty much the same thing. They still arguing. Nothing happened. Nothing was squashed. Pretty much agreed to disagree. Then they show, I guess the lady gave the reading for everybody. I don't even care to go over that. But then they show everybody eating, playing games, and then they take pictures together, and that's it. That's the end of that episode. They get together and they take pictures. They take a group picture, and that was the end for the Bailey Q. And Kelly, per usual, doing shots and drinking, and that was the end of that episode. So that is episode 9. Let me know what you think in the comments. Please like, please subscribe. Thank you for stopping by. Thank you for watching another video from the Tea Factory podcast. See you on the next video. Bye.